Yes, I've kind of been doing webRTC since before it was a thing. I kind of accidentally. I had a browser-based soft phone that wasn't bought by Google, and yeah, so it's kind of. I've spent the last few years trying to escape from soft phones and do something different, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about. So yeah, I am Tim Panton. I'm the CTO at Pipe, and so the structure of the next few hours is I'm going to set some context, set some background in here, and then we're going to do some hacking. You're going to write some software, and then we're going to have a race. We're going to race some little drones around a track. So there are going to be 8 tables in there. You kind of spread yourselves around. Like any team should have at least one person who can probably write JavaScript. Go and ping somebody who you know who writes JavaScript if you want to find somebody. Um, and yeah, anyone with Linux skills is also probably in demand. Um, so like we'll do this around the tables in there because it's going to be easier. So the context is, and this is great. Like what I've been doing is actually based around the fact that Germans do in fact have a sense of humor. There's a quote from Twitter from about 4 years ago which says that the S in IoT stands for security. Only it says it in German. And that kind of is the starting position for what Pipe does. Like basically, we built this IoT SDK for like baby monitors and little cars and security cameras and whatever. And it's based on the observation that IoT is making exactly the same mistakes in the security realm that the VoIP community did 10 years ago. And so maybe we can learn from that. But the thing is, my customers, actually, this isn't true anymore because they shipped me one of these, and I can show you it, right? But in general, the customers don't like me showing our code on their proprietary hardware before they've shipped it. They get dreadfully grumpy about me, like, pre-releasing their hardware. So I can't, and I don't. Um, and that means that to demo what we're doing, we kind of struggle actually because like we don't have anything to do it on. So I then end up building these little random things out of hobbyist kit, which allows me to demo this stuff. And I built one of these droids, which you'll see later, that allowed people to remotely control it, drive around on my floor. So I had it in Berlin, and my friend Diggs drove it from Florida, drove it around my flat in Berlin from Florida. Using the camera. And he said, "Hey, I found your keys." And I'm thinking, there's something there. And somebody else did the same thing and told me like they'd found part of change. So, which gives you a sense that my flat is messy, anyway. So I naturally thought that the idea would be fun to have a treasure hunt. So that's what we did last year here. We had a treasure hunt, kind of. People were hunting QR codes. But I made them build the things, which is kind of fun. Like you have a room full of highly paid VoIP engineers with screwdrivers putting together kits of hobbyist stuff. Like, great. And everybody really enjoyed it. So that's the important thing. And then after that, we took the same experience to a hacking summer school in Croatia. So it was a wonderful thing. It was in an old monastery. And we did the same thing as we'd done in ComCon last year, except that one extra rule, which was that hacking each other's devices was encouraged, right? So we just let them have free reign and go hack things. I should thank Pimeroni. They gave us quite a few of the parts for this. So the teams built their droids. We put them in a little white room like a THX lab. And we had a friend of mine looked after them, like picked them up when they fell over and whatever. And we had some hazards for them. But what was fun is they remotely drove them from a lecture theatre like 30 meters away. So they could not see and that's what we're going to try and reproduce here. You'll be in here driving the drones in there. That's the plan, assuming the Wi-Fi works. And I built a really, really bad UI. Like, Dan talks about building terrible UIs. Like, I'm the past master at building really bad UIs. And so the task was that they were scanning QR codes. But what's fun is what they did with the hacking rule, right? So they hacked the DNS. Well, obviously you would, right? They flooded the ARP tables. Like, every droid stopped apart from one. Like, and we knew why that was. We thought, actually, it turned out it's not strictly true. But anyway, so they had flooded the ARP tables. They did the kind of physical attack, rammed the opposition. They cracked the password on the thing that was supposed to be testing for the winning combination, which was a little embarrassing. But there you go. That's what you do with hackers. But they also did, and this picture's not totally clear, but the person holding the phone in the front is using the QR code reader in the phone because it's better than the QR code reader I built in the code. So he's using that and then transcribing the results back into the field by hacking the JavaScript, which I thought was quite cool, actually. These people upgraded the resolution of the camera to try and get a better QR code reader. And this lot, bless them, injected JavaScript to improve the user interface. Like, they disliked my user interface so much they thought they'd hack it. Okay, guilty. They were a great crowd, and I've got to thank Anna for taking those photos. It was brilliant. So, what we're going to do, I have to swap presentations now, but what we're going to do is you are going to hack some droids. Assuming I can find, yeah, and I'll probably swap devices at this point. I rather foolishly put the presentations on this iPad, thinking that would be like much more convenient. But for reasons I don't understand, this iPad has got it into its head that it doesn't want to show one of the presentations. So, which is why you had that on there. So with any luck, it'll show the other one. There we go. Excellent. So, what we're going to do is you're going to use pipe to drive these little robots. So the big picture is you have like an authenticated, end-to-end secure, real-time video and control channel between your smartphone, laptop, whatever, a web browser basically, and these little devices. But as I said, the UX is terrible. The only thing is that the arrow keys do something, and depending on your droid, exactly what the arrow keys do is slightly variable because I didn't wire all the motors up the same way. So you may have to either reconnect the motors or alternatively change the arrow key functionality. Kind of up to you. And the other thing is you'll see that the track is taller than the front wheel of the droid. So if you fall off the track, you probably won't get back on. You might. I have got back on successfully, but not all the time. So there you go. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So how does all this work? How do you get to hack it? Well, a little bit complicated, but basically we're using webRTC to proxy the video, kind of obviously, which is what webRTC does, but also, and the control channel, but also to proxy an HTTP request. So we're using a hack in the browser which allows us to proxy an HTTP request over into the device through NAT and all of the rest of the stuff, because that's what webRTC does, which means that you can edit on the device, you can edit a web page and it will show up on your browser through NAT securely, like all the things you would want. So basically, you will spend some time editing this sessionbody.html file, and that will change the look and feel. The other thing that's relevant there is the video relay file controls how the PyCam responds, so it sets the resolution and dynamically, actually. And then there's headless.js, which just sort of acts as a coordinating feature for those things. You'll see this, but I'm going to mention it now so that you've kind of got a sense of how it looks. To pair these things, what you do is you take a laptop and you plug the USB from your laptop into one of these devices. It will boot up. It will take an inordinately long time to boot up, a couple of minutes. After which, it will show up as a USB stick with a file in it, which you can then click on. You open the index file, and then in that, you'll get a QR code, which you can either scan on your phone, or you can just click the link if you want to do it in the current browser. So it depends on whether you want the ownership to be in your phone or on the laptop, kind of up to you. And then you'll be paired, and you'll get a video channel and a control channel to the device. There's also a built-in kind of web terminal, which is terrible, but it's just enough to do the next few things, which is that, and I'll put this presentation somewhere where you can find it, or you can come and find me. You then probably want to enable SSH so you can get in and copy files around and whatever. So there's some instructions there about how to do that, and then you can SSH to the devices, and all of the devices have animal names that you can use as .local. So I think MDNS will work. And then in driving mode, you want to swap to using the white cables and plug into the battery pack that sits on the back of the droid. And then it's free range. It doesn't have to drag your laptop around. To drive it, you can go to this index page and click on your animal. And you can lend it to another device. So if you have a team member who also needs to hack it or drive it, then you can lend that device using this click lend, and then you scan that QR code or click the link. And these are the files, as I said before, you might want to edit. The app.py is the low-level thing that drives the motors. You might want to tweak that for some reason or another. You want to change the behavior, whatever. The session body file has the bulk of the user interface in it. Video relay, as I said, controls the camera settings. It's just a GStreamer setup. And the webcam headless.js kind of orchestrates all of this. The session body is a hack in that it comes preloaded with Bootstrap, Font Awesome, Popper, jQuery, and Pipe. Now you can ignore all of those pretty much, but if you want to use them in your UI, they're present and already loaded. Like I said, it's a hack. And if you're kind of nosy, the way that this works is that Pipe loads session.html from the public web, but then that page creates a peer connection to your droid and then opens a data channel over that with the label of something that looks like a URI. And then over that, you can then proxy GET requests to the droid. And that then talks, in fact, to a local Python web server. It sounds complicated. It actually turns out to be really pretty easy to use. Chris and I will be around to help you with that. And then the result of that is that it inserts this session body file into the DOM of the session page. And then your UI is there on the web browser. Like I said, it sounds complicated, but it kind of isn't, actually. And then the other thing that Pipe does for you is it exposes a couple of things, and you'll see these in the existing file that's already there, the sessionbody.html. It has a video here function, and basically you can label a div and say this is where a video element, and this is where you want the video to be, and it will whack in the webRTC video as a source to that video element, and press play for you and all of the stuff you'd expect. And there's another thing which is probably the duct is probably not super interesting unless you really want to open another set of data channels. Can't think why you would, but you can. It's effectively an open peer connection you can call and open data channels on. And then body getter is an already open data channel with this behavior that it's acting as a web proxy. And what's nice is that that can then talk to the Python device, the Python server that's running in the droid that is controlling the motors. So that is that body getter is the way that you talk to the motors. And there's a send joy example in there that's just like mapped for a joystick. Speaking of joysticks, there are 3 PS3 controllers sitting in there. And if you're feeling brave, you can plug those into the USB port on your laptop. Chrome has a nice example code that will take the output of the USB, the joystick on the USB, and you can turn that into actions on the drive. or you can do a screen UI or whatever. Chris and I, and possibly Dan if he shows up, might be able to help. And I will put a URL for these slides probably on the screen in the other room, if I can get them to upload. And otherwise, come find me and I can show them to you. So I figure the thing to do now is we head in there. We've got roughly an hour to little over an hour to play with these things, get them working, and then we'll have a race at the end. Okay, so into the Wallace room in the building there.